All right, folks, so I'm back with another portrait. I had started this one a couple days ago, and I thought I'd share the process that I'll follow next. Now, before I continue, I like to get to this beginning foundation stage where you can just see the proportions, and there's not a whole lot of details. I check this throughout. So this will be my final check before I start actually shading it in. You really got to fight that urge to grab your pencils and shade for a while. You got to fight that urge for a long while. And so I'm going to look at proportions, and then the second part will be angles and alignment. So the proportions would be like, for example, the forehead area from the hairline down to the tops of the eyebrows, top of the eyebrow down to the bottom of the nose, bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin. And I'm going to do that by checking over here on my model just to make sure that I'm still within the right range. So that forehead area is about a little smaller than the center. And I'm going all the way down to the very lowest part where you see that little reflected light. And just about the chin to the top of the lip. So my forehead area should reflect a similar size. So a little smaller than the center, and from the bottom to the top, bottom of the chin to the top of the lips, and I'm getting that. So that's a really good, I got really good proportions. Now, another thing that could cause you to not see much of a resemblance in the beginning is all of these little sketchy lines that I used for getting the little landmarks, like the nose, the top third, the bottom third, the center third. Getting all those proportions in there, I use these little lines just to mark the bottom of the nose, the mouth line, the top of the eyebrows, the hairline, etc. And since we don't walk around with a bunch of lines on our face, you can actually make it feel as though, man, my drawing doesn't look like the person. Then you start erasing some of those lines and make them go away, and then voila, they start, might not be perfect, but it starts to look a heck of a lot more normal, more human, right? So here I am, just gonna erase some of this junk. And I didn't do the best job at, defining the shape of the eyes. I just did kind of a loose, quickie sort of sketch just to get me in the right ballpark, just to get me in the right range of where things are supposed to be. Oh, that's not good. That is really bad. Let me see if I can maybe I don't have a clip on the top because the way I got my easel set up, I don't have to, it looks like it tends to push it forward. So I've been experimenting with that, and I'm done experimenting with that. I will never do that again. And that's how you learn. That's how you learn. You make a mistake, and you're just like, well, I'm not doing that again. All right, not a big deal. This isn't, beautiful work or anything. This is just fun practice. Explaining things to people. This is fun. All this should be fun. It won't feel like fun in the beginning because you don't know what you're doing, but then after a while, it'll get fun. Okay, so I'm going to start looking at now the shape of things and seeing, what do I feel is wrong? Like, does my face on my drawing, does it look too big, in one area, or too small? Is it, warped, or, did I give her a giant forehead? That would go into proportions, but also the angles. I tilt it too much, not enough. Then I make it perfectly horizontal, and there's a little bit of slight angle there. Whatever those issues are, you need to, address it. You should address it earlier, but this will be your final chance. What I don't like is the left cheek here. I feel as though I kind of squished it in. It feels like there's more over there. Now, it could seem like there's more simply because there's a shadow line, but even if I were to sketch in the shadow line where I approximate the edge of that shadow to be, it still doesn't quite do it for me. It still looks a little bit off. little bit, you know, not right. So what do? Well, I do a technique called covering technique. I don't know if this has ever been invented before, but I'll show you what I do. So let's just say the left jaw, or it could be the right jaw, or the roundness of a bald head, or the roundness of this hairline, whatever. You can do the same thing I'm about to show you. Sorry, it looks like they're mowing the grass outside. If you hear a motor going. So all I do is I'll go over here and I'll put like the center of her chin and then the bottom of her ear, because that's where that jaw curve is. And I'll just put something like this from that line to that line, and I'll have this mound. Now I can't do it precisely because I'm vertical, but you really want to be horizontal doing this. That mound, and then I'll have the same areas covered on my drawing. And I'll cover my, you know, once I look at my mound of flesh, I'll compare it to what I'm seeing here. I'm like, you know, maybe my mound of flesh is too much on one side, you know, it's too hilly on one side and too flat on the other. I did too square, too flat, too small, too big, whatever it is. But now my brain only has to concentrate on seeing that little mound of flesh, that little shape. And it makes it much easier for the human eye to pick up on all those little subtle differences. So here, I believe that this cheekbone isn't coming out enough. She has a relatively, what I would consider, wide face and kind of high cheekbones. So it starts to curve right around, it goes from this angle to this angle, right around here. So right around the nostril area. I had turned it too early. And that's how you learn. That's how you just start cutting things up and seeing things in little pieces, so you can make sense of what's going on. Now on this side, this jawline seems to be okay, but that cheek, I think I needed to bring it out a little bit more, that little cheekbone there. And then bring out this jaw just a hair, just a tad, bring that in. And then right around here, I have this sort of shape for the shadow line. Now, when you do shadow lines, you know, if you want to draw them in, if that helps you, that's fine. I don't always draw them in. It does help to map this whole thing. Make sure that the shadow line looks right. If you do that, make sure that your lines are very loose and sketchy, because shadows, no matter how sharp they look along the edge, they're not going to be a straight, you know, it's not going to be a sharp line like that. It's going to look fuzzy. If you start doing sharp, you know, really crisp lines, it's not going to look natural. And, you know, people are going to be like, man, that's a really, there's something there that doesn't look right to people. And they'll notice it right away. So, for the sake of time, I'm going to call this good enough, because I don't want to make this into a very time-consuming thing. This is just practice, just taking out some paper and pencil and just playing around. But at home, like always, like I always say in my other videos, you know, take your time. Make sure you do things slowly as humanly possible. And I think I like this. I think that this is good enough. Nice flat looking face, kind of almost Asian looking thin eyes. She's got a very small, almost childlike sort of mouth. So I think that this is, I'm just looking at those things you're hearing me point out. I think we're gonna say this is a done deal here. I think we're good. So I'm gonna say that she's good enough and continue with the rest of this drawing by finishing off the the shading, or starting, not finishing, starting the shading. I feel like this needs to come out a little bit more on this side. And you can go, you can go into the dress and do the pattern and knock yourself out with all that. I'm not gonna do all that. I don't have time for all that. In the center of the face, roughly, maybe a little left of center, you have the wrinkle of the little rag there on her head. All right. So I believe that this looks good enough. Definitely could be a heck of a lot better if I wanted to take my my sweet time with this thing, but for what it is, I don't care. It's good enough.